I'm like a family. It's your brother Landon X. This is NationTownTV Live. And as you saw, the topic that we're going to deal with not necessarily commemorates the 20th anniversary of the terrible tragedy that was 9/11, but what we're going to do is expose the entire situation as time permits, but we're doing it for the sake of a background check. A background check on you. A background check on America itself. Yeah, hey, they go into our background. We're going to go into their background. Let's check it out.
I was told to deliver this message.
Rio, Rio, Rio.
So I'm like a family. It's your brother Landon X. This is NationTown TV Live. And as you saw from the flyer, we are going to get into the Exposed series again. Those tried and true Nation Town TV viewers, you remember last summer we did a lot of Exposed series where we expose a lot of things, but exposure in the real sense of the word, whenever you expose something, you're actually just looking deeper into it. It ain't necessarily to harm it or to make light of it or to try to hate on it or anything like that. It's just about looking closer into it, and that's what we intend to do with this episode of Nation Town TV Live. And what we're exposing is the background check aspect, using 9/11 as a case in point, as a trade line, so to speak. Because, black folks, we always have to deal with credit checks, background checks, even when it comes to getting a car, an apartment, even these days, even a job, we get the background check. So it's only right that we keep that same energy with our enemy and do a background check with this particular trade line, which is the 9/11 tragedy, which was absolutely a tragedy no matter how you see it. But let me start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master W. Far Muhammad, the long awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims, who made his way 9,000 miles by himself. By himself. He didn't have a dog with him. With nobody riding shotgun, he came 9,000 miles by himself, made himself known in July 1930, but he had been coming in and out of America for many years, studying not just books, but studying the black man and woman and the Aboriginal man and woman themselves. And what he saw when he first touched down in Black Bottom, Detroit, it hit him so hard in his emotions. Yes, God in person has emotions, that he sat on the curb and shed tears. But he found what he came looking for, and that was his messenger. And when I say that I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, let me be very specific on that Muhammad part. I'm talking about the promised messenger of the Holy Quran, when it says that certainly a messenger would be raised for every nation. This is the Quran talking, not me. Surah 16 and 36. And then Surah 10 and 47, it goes into a little bit more detail. It says that this messenger would speak the language of that people. And then it goes even deeper in surahs like Surah 44 and 5, where it says that we are ever sending messengers, which proves that God is ever sending messengers. And a messenger for this time, this dispensation, and for this nation, you better believe is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that great preacher of freedom, justice, and equality. And I know who he is, because before he left our midst, I got to be clear for the sake of transparency. These two beautiful individuals, they were long gone from the scene by the time I was born. But the only way I can bear witness to them is that they left a bridge, so to speak, to continue to intervene in our affairs. A bridge that a little big head brother like myself could still walk that path, that straight path, that Sirat al-Mustaqim, toward Islam. And that bridge is none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in those three great names, I greet you in the words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum to everybody that's chiming in. I see you, big brother Tevis. I see you, brother 99 Alpha Ali Wakane. I see you, brother Tevis. Again, keep in mind, hit us up with your questions and comments. We will try to superimpose them over the screen, just like you see right there. Shout out to brother Tevis. We don't intend to be on long, but we do intend to be on strong. I'm gonna knock some things out. This might be one of our fastest episodes on NationTown TV in a while, because we just gonna get straight to the point. And here's the point. As I said earlier, when you're dealing with acquiring anything, whether it's property, whether it's a job, car, even when you get pulled over by the Gestapo, the Popo, when you get pulled over, the first thing they do, no matter how much they like you, no matter who you think you are, how nice your car, especially if you got a nice car, the first thing they do is they ask for your license and registration. Once they get hold to your license, they take that and they run it through the system, so to speak. What are they running it for? To make sure that the license is real? Not so much. They're running it to see what's your background. Do you have any warrants? When was the last time you were arrested? Is the license still valid? Is it suspended? What's going on with you? things that they can't see just by looking at you. They're going deeper into it by running it into a system that gives them the whole history that the system holds about you. And that's something that we just used to. Some of us have gotten to the point. I even saw a brother that was selling this contraption that you put on your on your flip down mirror, where you just pull it down and it already got your license and registration on it, in order to keep brothers from getting shot by the police. We're so used to this, we don't even think twice about it. But then when the time comes where America gives us the option or implores us to do something like, I don't know, let me pull something out of thin air, like a so-called vaccine, a shot where they're actually sticking a needle into your veins and pumping a chemical into your body without giving you any real explanation of what it is. I think that's a good time to run a background check. I think that's a good time to run a background. I mean, because we know how that process works. We just don't know how to run that process with our open enemy. We do it with each other. Oh, we do it with each other all the time, sister. When that brother try to holler at you, you're not even concerned with that particular brother's background. The first thing that flashed past your mind are your past experiences with other black men. Let's just tell the truth. Brothers, we do the same thing. When topics that come up about relationships, we just think about all of our own personal individual experiences with the opposite sex, and we lump them all together, and then we make a determination based on that. I can't look at you and tell you that that's a wrong thing to do. It makes sense. That's scientific to take prior experiences, intel, information, compare it to the situation that you may or may not get into now, and then make a determination based on that. That's really just scientific. That's being a scientist. So when it comes to anything, when it comes to politics, when it comes to a so-called vaccine, when it comes to anything, when it comes to expecting something like reparations, when you expect anything from anybody, because that's how they run, that's why they run credit checks. I mean, let's just be honest, let's be real. When you go in for any type of loan, any type of guaranteed process, they don't know you. They don't know you from a hole in the wall. So what they want to do is run your credit and run your background to try to get some type of idea based on actual facts of the likelihood of you being able to pay them back for what they're about to loan you. When you get a car finance, you drive off the lot with the whole car. They don't just give you the rims. They don't just give you the steering wheel. They don't just give you the brakes. They don't just give you the spare tire in the trunk. You get to roll off with the whole car. Even though you only made a down payment, or you only made a fraction, you paid a fraction of what the car's value is. They trust you with that whole car driving off. So they need to know something. But that's just a car. Or that's just an apartment. Or that's just this or just that. But we talking about someone who owes us trillions upon trillions of dollars in reparations. What's the likelihood that they can pay us back? Someone who wants to jab us with a chemical that we know nothing about, and claiming that it'll save our life when there's no evidence to prove that. These are major things. So it's only right to keep that same energy with our enemy and run a background check on them. So with that said, family, we're going to get this rolling. First of all, as y'all know, this is NationTown TV Live, brought to you by none other than NationTownStore.com. Make sure y'all hit us up. Show us some love on NationTownStore.com. Also, keep in mind that Monday through Friday, we always drop on Facebook and Instagram at NationTownTV the deal of the day, where you can get discounts from our products, sometimes even free stuff. The discounts can be as much as 50%. You just got to go get what you want, plug in that coupon code, and you never know. Hey, I don't want to call it a mystery code because we don't believe in the mystery anything in the Nation of Islam. But you never know what you might get, so definitely show us some love on NationTownStore.com. And also, if you just want to show us some love, You can go right up there on Cash App, $ NationTown. Show us some love, man, whether it's 50 cents, a dollar, $50, or 50 racks, whatever Allah has blessed you with and blessed you in your heart to give to NationTown TV family. Keep in mind that whatever you do contribute to the NationTown TV family, it also goes directly to our Yes Ma'am program, which is a meal and a message. And that meal and the message program is where we provide just that, a meal and a message to people in need, families in need. And that consists of the same things that we eat and that we enjoy: the delicious bean soup, water, vegetables, fruits, the whole nine. And we're about to start handing out books as well, such as the Black Man's Bible, as I call it, the Holy Quran. And we also going to stock up on PPE to help people through this pestilence from heaven, so that they are safe, as safe as they could be. So let's get down into it. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Make sure y'all hit us with your questions and comments. Make sure you hit us with our questions and hit us with your questions and comments. And what we'll do, like I said, we will superimpose them on the screen. But let's get down to it. Before we get into the situation, we're doing a background check specifically on 9/11. As you all know, unless you've been living under a rock, 9/11 took place exactly 20 years ago. Last week commemorated the 20-year anniversary of that tragic event. And it was absolutely tragic. I don't care what your opinion of the situation is. The only thing that I would, some people believe it actually was foreign enemies. Some people believe it was an inside job. I've even seen foolishness on the internet with people who act like it just didn't happen, like it, like the Twin Towers was never there or something. I mean, people think of the silliest stuff, which brings me to this point. Your brother, your brother, Landon X, NationTown TV. We are not conspiracy theorists. I want to make that so very clear. I am not a conspiracy theory. I got to give it to you Bill Clinton style, like he said after the Monica Lewinsky situation. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just not. In fact, I'm really kind of irritated by those who fall too deep into conspiracies. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. But here's the main reason why I am not a conspiracy theorist. Let's look at the definition of a conspiracy. A conspiracy is a secret plan by a group, by a group to do something unlawful or harmful, the action of plotting or conspiring. But the key word here is a group. That's the key word. And let's be clear, when you look at the fact that you're talking about a plot or a plan, this is the etymology. Conspirare, Latin, agree, plot. Who do you know that does not agree to things or does not plot things? Now, it says things that may be harmful. We probably all guilty of that too. And we do them kind of things in groups. So it's an absolute fact that there are conspiracies taking place all day. So it's never just a theory. So that's the main reason. But another thing I got to point out before we even get cracking on this, when you talk about a conspiracy and you talk about a group, that group involved with that conspiracy, they might look like this. They might even look like that. They might look like this. They might look like that. But either way, a conspiracy is a conspiracy, no matter how you cut it. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But furthermore, I should say, There's something else I want to point out. Like I said, I generally do not like conspiracy theories, that as they're colloquially known as conspiracy theories. And what I mean by that in the colloquial sense is just, oh man, do you know that so and so and so and so is really, the earth is really triangular? Did you know the Matrix was written by a 4-year-old black girl? It's just this kind of just weird stuff. But there's one particular reason why I don't like conspiracy theories, especially amongst black people, because we usually use conspiracy theories, and follow me on this, we usually use conspiracy theories in our community as a reason or as an excuse to not do something that we know we're supposed to do. So we use it as an excuse for inactivity, not as a reason for activity. We use it for an excuse as to why we don't have what somebody else has. We see a celebrity, a black celebrity, young, black, extremely successful. Oh, they only have it because they worship the devil. But then you got 9 Amazon boxes stacking up on your porch, and you making Jeff Bezos rich. But you won't say that about Jeff Bezos. But you'll say it about Jay-Z. You'll say it about Beyonce. Why? Because it makes a lot of us sleep better. Not all of us. Not all of us, but hey, hit dogs holler. It makes a lot of people, a lot of black folks sleep better at night when they see somebody that's as black as them, as young as them, extremely successful, and then they're not, and it makes you think like, damn, they made it in this white man's world. What's wrong with me? We didn't all thought like that. Let's just be real. We keep it 100 on NationTown TV. But when we say, oh, okay, Jay-Z did some gay stuff, or this person they sold out, or they sold to the devil. Oh, I ain't gonna do that. Now all of a sudden we Christians. I mean, because you can't talk about selling your soul to the devil unless you believe in the devil and you believe in, you can't acknowledge devil worshiping, but then have beef with religion and Christianity. That's always confused me. So what we do is that we come up with these conspiracies as a reason for inactivity rather than a reason for activity. Let me explain a little bit further. For example, and I'm going to use the nation as an example, the Nation of Islam. A lot of times we go amongst our people, often, every day. There are hundreds of brothers as I speak on the blacktop out in the streets right now, bow tie, suited up, final calls in hand, bean pies, incense, whatever it is they sell, eating fresh products. They out there, and they reach out with an olive branch to our people. And instead of just dealing with it as if they worked for Amazon, or they worked for Walmart, or they worked for Foot Locker or whatever, instead of looking at it like that, the black person that they're reaching out to, or the aboriginal person that they're reaching out to, they immediately jump to an excuse for inaction. They say things like, man, didn't y'all kill Malcolm? Oh, see, man, I would buy that paper. I would buy that, but man, I feel like y'all had something to do. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Caucasian, who you spend 98% of your money with, killed everybody for the last 4 to 6 thousand years. But that won't stop you. Y'all say things like, man, y'all ain't real Muslims. Y'all ain't real Muslims. Or I'm a Hebrew Israelite. Or I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus, in the name of Jesus, across the street from Jesus, riding shotgun with Jesus. I can't buy that newspaper. Like, what the hell? LA Times, the New Orleans Picayune, the Dallas Morning News, the Chicago Sun-Times, the New York Times, the Tulsa World, the Miami Herald. They don't even tell you. The editors of that newspaper don't even tell you what they believe. It ain't know what the Jews want in the back of the LA Times. It ain't know what the Jews believe in the back of the Washington Post. I mean, you do know that those are all ran by Jews, right? But you'll read those newspapers. If you seen one sitting around, you'll read it. Your grandma read it. Your mama read it, and pay for it. But we use conspiracy theories as a means for inaction. But see, that's one of the biggest differences between us and our open enemy. And I got to give it to him. The messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, observe the operations of the white man. He is successful. He makes no excuses for his failures. He works in a collective manner. Look at our open enemy does. Check him out. He uses conspiracy theories too, but he does not use conspiracy theories for inaction. He uses it for action. What am I talking about? See, because this is what we do. We use that conspiracy theory. I heard y'all kill Malcolm. I don't believe what y'all believe. I heard y'all not real Muslims. So we can just continue being a nigga. So we can continue being a nigga. Drinking, smoking, killing each other, or so we can continue being an inactive, fake, woke Negro who has nothing but rhetoric and half-baked African ancestry, leaning on that quasi wokeness, because anything else is going to require them to be active and to involve themselves in some type of activity. And see, they don't want that. So they use that deceptive intelligence and these conspiracy theories so they can rest peacefully and do nothing in these stages of life. But look at the enemy. He uses conspiracy theories too. Y'all remember how they put our brother out there, Colin Powell? I call him our brother. He's still our brother. How they put him out there, and he swore up and down in front of Congress that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. He put his whole career on the line. That's why he ended up voting for Obama, even though he's a Republican, because he was salty that his boss, his master, George W. Bush, put him on Front Street like that and made him swear before the world, him and Condoleezza Rice, that Iraq has something to do with 9/11 and had weapons of mass destruction. That's a theory. That's a conspiracy theory, an official conspiracy theory, but it had a purpose. It had a purpose of action, not inaction. It was wicked action, but it was action nonetheless. Bush orders start of war in Iraq. Missiles apparently miss Hussein. So as soon as they laid out that conspiracy theory, George W. Bush went to work. And that's why I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories amongst our people, because we only use it as an excuse for inactivity. We only use it as an excuse for disunity. Disunity. Every time America goes to war, the next thing they do once they decide that they're going to war is that they put together a coalition. George W. Bush called it a coalition of the willing. That's unity. It's wicked unity, but it's unity. And what we do is we use conspiracy theories for disunity and for inaction. So that's why your brother Landon, Nation TV, you don't see a whole lot of conspiracy theories. We deal with facts that may indeed be conspiracy. Shout out to everybody chiming in. I see you. All praises due to Allah. We see you, Brother Hakeem. Wa alaikum salam. Make sure y'all hit us up with your questions and comments. We see you. All praises due to Allah. And as the sister says, please like, share, and subscribe, family. Get this information out there. You can share it on Facebook. Put the information out there on. Drop the link wherever you go. Run outside and slip somebody a piece of paper with the link on it. Whatever you got to do, make sure you share this message and get it out there. So, like I said, we don't intend to be on long, but we do intend to be on strong. Let's get it. Let's get it, y'all. Remember, what we're doing is a background check on America, using 9/11 as the backdrop. Last week was the 20th anniversary of that terrible, terrible, terrible multi-thousand person homicide case. That's what it really was. It was a homicide. Let's not get so bogged down in the conspiracies and in the politics of it and all of that, even the religious aspects of it, and forget the loss of life. Those were real people that died, man. They gone. And they were of all creeds and colors and religions. Every religion was represented in the victims. Every race was represented, every ethnicity, every gender. See, that's what happens when devils go to work. They don't miss no. And keep in mind, the Caucasian is a firm believer in collateral damage. They will knock off their own, a small chunk of their own, to get to where they want to go. They firmly believe in that, and they have a history of that. So let's get into that background. Let's get into that background check. Now, what we're going to do is go over some facts about the 9/11 situation, and I want to be very clear, and I'm going to keep coming back to this. The whole purpose is not to argue about 9/11. 9/11 is done. It happened. It was over and done with by 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9/11/2001. It was done. We can't go back and change it. But this is to let you know that this is a government and a power structure that cannot be trusted with anything. You can say you don't trust the government. I saw a post from a sister the other day. She had she wasn't in the Nation of Islam to my understanding, but she had a Muslim name, and she just lost a loved one to COVID-19. And because she happened to lose someone who she knew, she decided at that point, oh, I'm taking the vaccine, and I implore all of y'all to do the same thing too. And I know she's in pain. I know she misses her loved one. But this is where we really find out what we really believe in times of trial. It's easy to be a peacetime soldier. Come on now. It's easy to be a peacetime soldier. It's when the bullets start flying. Those bullets are trials. That's when you find out what you believe in. We can say illa Muhammad or Rasulullah, but then as soon as a bullet whizzes past your ear, as soon as a little bit of grief and death whizzes past your life, you know, the threat of diminution of fruits, all of a sudden it's illallah, Joe Biden and Rasulullah. No, well, hold on. No, sir. No, ma'am. So the whole purpose of this is to look at the background. If you go to a bitter man and ask him, brother, why you got so much beef with black women? He'll start naming off past experiences with random black women. You go to a bitter black woman and say, what do you have against the black man? Why are you always twisting up your mouth when just the mention of when a black man come within 15 feet of you? She'll start rattling off her history with black men. And in reality, that history will go all the way back to her own father, even her uncle. And she's probably justified in feeling the way she feels. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to argue that. But keep that same energy with your enemy. Let's look at a background trade line dealing with 9/11. We're going to look into this and look at some quick facts before we go any further. First of all, let's look at this. This is the most important fact of 9/11. This is the most important, without question, the most important. U.S. and Allied killed. This is just on the United States side of things. Now I'm gonna go through a lot of facts, y'all. Some of it's gonna be sad, some of it's gonna be jarring, some of it's gonna be surprising. But check it out: 7,057 U.S. service members. These are young brothers and sisters, poor whites, poor Hispanics, our brothers and sisters as well, you know, who didn't go the college route, but they still wanted to do something positive with their life. Very few of those 7,057 are super patriots and they saw the towers fall and they said, oh, I want to help my country. No, they were trying to pay for school. They were trying to do something with their life. 7,057 knocked off. 30,177 suicides among U.S. service members and veterans of the post 9/11 wars. 30,000, almost 40,000 in total. But that's just the U.S. service members. Let's get into internationally. The number of United States troops who have died fighting the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan had passed 7,000 at the end of 2019. but approximately 177,000 national military and police from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, and Syria allies have died. Western allies have also borne high human costs. Some of the Western allies that America had in this was Australia and Great Britain. I think Canada, sent some troops over there as well. Shout out to everybody chiming in. I see you. So that's something we gotta be aware of. Now we're gonna get into the meat of it as far as the actual facts about 9/11 that a lot of people may or may not know. Some of you are gonna see some things real quick that you already knew, and you're gonna learn something that you did not know. Well, let's start with this one. There was a woman by the name of, and it's an interesting name for the sake of Islam, by the name of Deborah Medina. She's a Caucasian in Texas, and she's a politician. She was a comptroller in the state of Texas. And a few years back, she ran for governor, and she's a Republican. And in an interview, she was asked about some of the conspiracy theories or questions that were raised around 9/11 that came up in one of the local debates. And she's running for governor, and she's a Republican. But look at what she said. She said, I think some very good questions have been raised. In that regard, there's some very good arguments, and I think the American people have not seen all the evidence there. Remember, Republican, Southern, redneck Caucasian running for governor. And I commend her, especially as a politician running for governor in a red state that pretends to be so pro-military, pro-America. For her to say that, it goes without saying, she got blown out the water in that primary. She didn't even come close to winning the primary. But, she was keeping it real. Let's go further. Shout out to everybody chiming in. We see you. Another thing that you got to take in, I'm just going to ask a question, and I guarantee you an answer is going to pop up in your mind. I don't care what your mouth say, an answer is going to pop up in your mind. Who was accused of being responsible for 9/11? I know what name just popped in your mind. I didn't say who did 9/11. I didn't say who was responsible. I said who was accused. Put it in the comment section. I got amnesia all of a sudden. I don't know. Of course, you know who was accused of being responsible for 9/11. Osama bin Laden, right? Okay. Well, when you watch old westerns, you see those those wanted dead or alive posters. That's a real thing, and it wasn't just a real thing back in the old West days. It still exists now. You can go in post offices and government buildings, and you'll still see wanted posters. Somebody who's wanted, especially by the FBI, they produce a wanted poster, an official wanted poster. That was an official wanted poster produced for Osama bin Laden after 9/11. But to think about every wanted poster or every what do they call it? They call it a bolo. Be on the lookout. Every bolo lets you know what they're accused of. That's guaranteed. If I'm accused of punting a puppy over the bridge or something, I'm accused of smacking somebody. That will be on the wanted poster. Wanted for aggravated assault. That would be on the wanted poster. But the actual warning, the actual wanted bolo of Osama bin Laden does not mention 9/11. This is the official wanted document of Osama bin Laden. Keep in mind that in the Arabic language, there's no real way to really translate the Arabic language into the English language. So you'll see certain words that are Arabic spelled differently in English from different people. You'll see the word Muhammad spelled different. That's because it's like a square peg in a round hole. You just can't. you know, clearly make that translation. That's why you see his name uh, spelled with a U. But look closer. It's breaking down what he's actually wanted for. Check it out. Murder of U.S. nationals outside the United States. Conspiracy to murder U.S. nationals outside the United States. Attack on a federal facility resulting in death. Hold on now. You probably think, whoa, there it is. That's the Pentagon. That got attacked. A federal facility. No, 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 no. In 1997, according to court documents, bin Laden orders the militarization of the East African cell of Al Qaeda, a move that culminates in the bombing of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania on August 7, 1998. 8 years to the day after U.S. troops landed in the Saudi kingdom. So I'm gonna go back. Let's go back. This is what was produced after 9/11, saying that Osama bin Laden was wanted. Here's the truth of the matter. Osama bin Laden was wanted by the FBI on 9/10/2001, in 9/9/2000, and 9/8/2000. He had been wanted since February 1997. But they only produced this after 9/11. Think about it. Shout out to everybody chiming in. We see you. We see you. But the 99 Owl says, I love Westerns. Grew up watching them with my pops. All praises due to Allah. Sister Shana Joy says, at first, they accused the Nation of Islam. They were accusing everybody. And I remember hearing Osama bin Laden's name as far back as the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. So this is, but this was produced after 9/11. Why would you accuse a man in the media of doing something, but you don't put it in writing? I'm gonna tell you that. As y'all know, I have legal experience. I'm a certified paralegal. When you putting something in writing is the most legally binding form of communication. If I tell you something verbally, I can claim that I was not of sound mind. I can claim that the audio recording is not real. But when I write it down, that proves that it was premeditated, first of all. And that's what makes it the most legally binding way of communicating a thought, is by writing. So you always have to be careful about what you write. And that's why all business deals that are worth their salt are put in writing. Something that somebody will put in writing has the most legal weight. That's why in the Nation of Islam, we don't just recite a Shahada, Ilallah Muhammad Rasulullah. We put it in writing in our Savior's letter. And the FBI, they smarter than that. They say, we're not going to officially accuse this man because then we got to prove it. So we're going to cut around the edges and just say, he's wanted for attack on a federal facility, something that he was already wanted for before 9/11. Let's keep it moving. We ain't even scratched the surface. Y'all know how we do on 9/11? That wormhole gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Here's another thing. There was unusual option market activity during the terrorist, after the terrorist attacks, before the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. There's something called put options in the stock market. Put options. Put options, to put it in the most layman terms, is when you bet on a stock to fail. Or it's like insurance for a stock if it fails. But it's a bet. And it's essentially gambling. But that's why inside information is illegal according to the authorities. Because if you have the information that a company is about to acquire a new product or a new technology, or they're about to go under and other people don't know it, you can make a lot of money on the stock market. But there was unusual market activity. Companies that people were doubling down on with put option stocks. Companies, but not random companies. Companies like United Airlines and other hedge funds that dealt directly with the market in general, and specific companies that would take a hit after 9/11. Before 9/11, people were certain people were flocking toward these put options. But don't take my word for it. Bloomberg News, one of the most trusted uh, business news sources, probably second only to the Wall Street Journal. Bloomberg himself was mayor of New York, and that's how he made his money, through his media empire. But here's what Bloomberg Business News said. They said this would be one of the most extraordinary coincidences in the history of mankind, if it was a coincidence at all. They're speaking of how somehow all of these people who made millions off of 9/11, the very next week, based on their put options, this would be one of the most extraordinary coincidences in the history of mankind, if 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 it was a coincidence at all. Is another thing to consider. We're gonna keep it moving. Y'all gonna have to keep up. How was the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, how was the FBI able to release names and photos of the hijackers within hours of the attack? Do you know how many hurdles you have to clear before names of suspects or victims are put out in public? It doesn't matter if they foreign or not. It doesn't matter the circumstances. They can give out a description if they on the run or something. But they got to clear a lot of hurdles to start giving you whole names. And what the FBI did is that they produced a list with 19 names, and they said these 19 individuals, all from the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia, they are responsible for these hijackings. 19 names. 19 names. Remember that number. Interesting number. But hold on now. But wait, there's more. How was the FBI able to release names and photos of the hijackers within hours? But here's the kicker. Y'all ready for this? At least 5 of the 19 names of so-called terrorists named on the FBI's instant list are alive and well in Saudi Arabia, perhaps even to this day. But they were definitely alive and well after 9/11. Now, last time I checked, if you get on an airplane, you hijacking, and the airplane runs into a skyscraper and it explodes and thousands of people die, your chances of survival and then hopping on a plane and going back to Arabia within 24 hours are kind of slim. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Maybe you got it like that. Maybe Allah is really with you. These are the 19. These are the 19. These are, out of these 19, 5, at least 5 are still alive today, but they were already on a list, not of possible hijackers, actual hijackers. And as you can see over to the left, it breaks down what flight they claim that these hijackers were on. But 5 of them are still alive today. They in Arabia right now eating falafel. Right now. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Hit us up, show us some love on Cash App, $NationTown. And this is, of course, NationTown TV Live, brought to you by the one and only NationTownStore.com. Let's keep it going. Remember what I said about the official FBI wanted poster of Osama bin Laden. pointed out what he was wanted for, and none of those things were for 9/11. Murder of U.S. nationals outside the United States, conspiracy to murder U.S. nationals outside the United States, attack on a federal facility, which was also outside the United States, U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania on August 7th, 1998. But check this out. There's a reason why the FBI was smart enough not to actually put 9/11 on his wanted memorandum. They did it for legal purposes. Because if they put it on there, that means that if he was ever captured, then they would immediately have to prove that he did what they said he did. Just like if they capture you and you on the run for stealing hubcaps or whatever is going on in your life. Now that they have you captured, they just can't hold you and say, we got you, and throw you in prison. You know, the way the legal system works for black people, it almost seems like they do it like that. But legally, they then have to prove it. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be. Y'all know how it goes. But you have a right to an attorney. You have a right to a fair trial, a jury of your peers, all that kind of foolishness. But they knew, okay, we ain't ready for all that because this is a false flag. So what we're gonna do is that we're just gonna warm over the charges that we already had on this man and then produce this memorandum. But there's further reasoning why they did that, family. Check this out. When George W. Bush, shout out to everybody chiming in. We see you, Sister Yasiel. We love you. All praises due to Allah. Wa alaikum salam. All praises due to Allah. When George W. Bush made it clear, I remember like it was yesterday. He said, we're going to go to Afghanistan and we're going to smoke them out. Speaking of Westerns, brother 99 Al, George Bush, he really thought he was John Wayne in 2001. He thought we're gonna go to Afghanistan. We're going to smoke them out their caves. And America was turned up like, yeah, get them back. Pay attention to that. Remember, the whole purpose of me going over this is not just to commemorate the tragedy of 9/11. History is best suited to reward research, meaning it's best suited to help you today. So look at what's going on today. We're all on this emotional kick because of this tragedy called COVID-19. So we all kind of leaning toward whatever the government says is the solution. Well, after 9/11, the solution that was given was we're going to bomb Afghanistan back into the Stone Age. So George W. Bush put that out there. But there's people in Afghanistan. We had an Afghanistan episode a few weeks ago. I pointed out that 38 million people in Afghanistan. And before America began to intervene in the affairs of Afghanistan, they had their own government. It wasn't a westernized government, but it was a government. And the man who was in charge was a man by the name of Mullah Omar. Some people call him the blind sheikh or the blind Umar or blind Mullah. Mullah Omar, I like his response when he heard that George W. Bush and the Americans were coming to kick up dust in Afghanistan. He said, oh, hold on. Check out what he said. He said, if you have proof that Osama bin Laden is in Afghanistan, give us that info and we will find him and turn him over ourselves. Now, here's something that you probably don't know about Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden is the equivalent. Now, follow me on this. He's the equivalent of Jay-Z's, one of his sons, his son that he just had with Beyonce, one of the twins. Imagine if 13, 14, or 18 years from now, Jay-Z's son, they worth about $1 billion, Jay-Z and Beyonce, a little over $1 billion. Imagine if Jay-Z's son, that he's going to raise as a billionaire, 18 years from now, his son puts out an album, and on the cover of the album, he's sitting in the middle of the Marcy Projects with a blunt hanging out his mouth, tattoos, talking about, I'm really out here. I'm really in these streets. How believable would that be? You'd be like, oh nigga, come on, you Jay-Z, son. Man, you grew up in some $80 million house on the hill somewhere. Well, that's Osama bin Laden. He is from one of the richest families in Arabia. Silver spoon, not even silver spoon, platinum spoon. In his early 30s, he decided that he wanted to be some type of Muslim fundamentalist. And it was almost an overnight transition. He was really a nobody. He was like a deadbeat son. He didn't do anything to spend his family's money. Kind of like George W. Bush. They really had more in common than otherwise. But all of a sudden, he turned into, this cult figure in the Middle East. Why? Because he used his family's money in order to finance a lot of the revolutions that were sparking up in the Middle East. So, Mullah Omar, as you can see, he's looking at Osama bin Laden like, man, he ain't my homie. He ain't from these streets. He ain't from Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden is from Yemen. He grew up with a silver spoon, a golden spoon in his mouth. He just been walking around with a turban just the last 10 years. Osama bin Laden, there are no pictures of Osama bin Laden even wearing a turban prior to 1985. Every other picture of him prior to 1985, he looked like a programmer at Google. Button down shirt, supercuts haircut, no beard. I should have posted one of the pictures I had of him. I'll tell you, he looked like he worked at the Apple store or something. It was a picture from like 1983 with his whole family. In this whole family picture, you don't see no women with their head covered. You don't see no turbans. You don't see no jalabiyas. You don't see none of that. They are one of the most secular and richest families in the Middle East. But suddenly, he made a 180-degree turn into this, so-called fundamentalist Muslim. So Mullah Omar is like, listen, man, we don't care about this dude. And we don't want you coming over here dropping bombs on our people for something we didn't have nothing to do with. If y'all got info that he's here, give it to us. We'll find him for you and bring him to you on a silver platter. Because we ain't got nothing to do with this. Mullah Omar right here is essentially in Arabic saying, my name is Bennett and I ain't in it. Show us what this dude is, and we'll give him to you. Because we don't really like the dude anyway. He faking. He faking the funk. He a poser. He ain't real with it. We'll give him to you. So that was a clear offer to America. But here's the key word. Mullah Omar said, prove it. But look at what George W. Bush's response was. Because the press corps here, the White House press corps, they grilled George W. Bush on this, and they asked him. They said, Mullah Omar, he's sending a message. He sent a message to the United Nations all over the world through every outlet he could that would hear him out, and he was saying, listen, tell George W. Bush, give us the info, and we'll find them. We'll bring them to you. So the press corps, one of the journalists asked the president during one of his press conferences, well, will you take him up on that offer? And that's where George W. Bush famously said, we don't negotiate with terrorists. And some of y'all fell for that. Like, yeah, man, y'all blew up the World Trade Center, man. We ain't negotiate. It wasn't a negotiation. It was an offer of help. Oh, he's here? Oh, he in my hood? Tell me where he is. We got him. That happens in street politics all the time. There's a situation that I'm not at liberty to get too deep into, but it was a situation where a particular building got tagged up. And in the tagging, it was representing a certain gang and doing what they call in LA, whacking out another gang, which is a serious thing, especially in LA. And the people who owned that building and operated out of that building, they went to the hood that this person, was claiming. One brother talked to another brother talked to another brother. Before you knew it, they had produced this young dude. And he really wasn't even that young. But they produced him and said, here, he the one that tagged it up. Do what you want. And he got it. He got disciplined. He got DP. So they do that on an international scale. They said, okay, so he's the one that did that. Okay, well, we ain't got nothing to do with it. I mean, we ain't tripping. We kind of cool that it happened. We ain't tripping, but hey, we ain't had nothing to do with it. Don't drop no bombs. Don't send no troops, no soldiers. Remember, we are homies. Oh, a lot of people don't know that. The United States of America gave billions of dollars to the Taliban in the 80s in order to fund a resistance movement against the Soviets. So the last transaction between the people of Afghanistan and America before 9/11 was a friendly transaction of billions of dollars of high-tech weaponry. So the Mullah Omar was like, man, we cool. Show me where he is, I'll get him. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. But I had to really kind of dig into that one. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Hit us up. We see you. Hit us with your questions and comments. We'll try to superimpose them. Sister Yasiel said, you're right. Glad to get some in. All praises due to Allah. Here we are. A couple of silver spoons. Ricky Schroeder. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That Osama bin Laden secret mission seemed very questionable. Absolutely. Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. Here's another thing to consider. Right now, you turn on the news. Since the Taliban has taken Afghanistan back, and ain't that they just took it back because they had it in the first place. That's where the mullah is from. He represents the Taliban. So right now they taking it back, right? And what the propaganda on the media is trying to tell you is that Afghanistan is they're living in squalor. There's this massive oppression. Women are so oppressed. But do you remember that after 2001, after 9/11, there was a $25 million price put on Osama bin Laden's head? Not just that, but also a promise of extradition or a promise of an international version of the witness protection program, saying that if you give us real information on Osama bin Laden's whereabouts, we'll not only give you $25 million, poor little Afghan, but we'll also get you out of Afghanistan so you ain't got to worry about nobody getting retribution against you. So, despite a $25 million reward and a promise of extradition, plus the alleged extreme poverty and oppression in Afghanistan, not one Afghan citizen offered any information on the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden. See, you got to really think on that one right there, because that only means a couple of things. That either means that they just didn't know, and or they were standing on a principle so strong that America didn't quite understand it. They were standing on a principle of a real principle of no snitching. Nah, we ain't telling you where our brother is. We don't agree with him 100%. He ain't really down with us, but he's still our brother. He's still our Arab brother. Nah, we ain't telling you what it is. And he ain't a price tag you can give us. That's something to think about as we sit in the situation we in right now. They're giving out free pieces of chicken, free donuts, free concert tickets for you to take that shot. Yeah, this is about the vaccine. This ain't about 9/11. 9/11 is done. I'm trying to stop another 9/11, another Tuskegee. You feel me? So they said, listen, man, we don't know where he is. You can keep that 25 million. Or they just didn't know. But either way, that proves a whole lot that they had 25 million on his head and nobody took it. But they swore up and down that he was there. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. These are all facts with receipts. All facts with receipts. Now check this out. Now this is really disturbing. United States government operations and exercises on September 11, 2001. On September 11, 2001, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, otherwise known as NORAD, was involved in an ongoing operation which involved deploying fighter aircraft to northwestern North America. The U.S. military and NORAD had also planned to conduct several exercises, and a drill was being held by the National Reconnaissance Office, a Department of Defense agency. The operations, exercises, and drills were all canceled following the September 11th attacks, but they had already begun before it. So the question you got to ask yourself is, how did these so-called Afghan Taliban hijackers, how did Osama bin Laden know that there would only be 2 fighter jets available to intercept any airplane attacks? Because normally they have multiple in every region of the country ready for some type of aerial assault. I know you was probably, if you old enough to remember 9/11, I know you was probably thinking like, damn, how come they didn't send somebody to shoot them down? They didn't have nobody. They had 2 jets. George W. Bush came close, allegedly, to using one to stop the alleged plane that went into the Pentagon, but he didn't. Ask yourself these questions. Are they that lucky? I know Allah, Allah is with the Muslims, but Allah wouldn't approve of what happened on 9/11. Maybe his permissive will, but that's not Allah's active will. So they weren't that blessed or that lucky to just happen. Out of 365 days on the calendar, they choose the day, unless they had somebody working on the inside, or if they are the inside, if you understand. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. It just gets uglier from there, family. It don't get no prettier. Here's something else to consider. John Ashcroft, this Peckerwood right here, this Caucasian, he was given a heads up that proves the threat was known before 9/11. This is John Ashcroft. He was the Attorney General at the time. And check this out. It says on July 26, 2001, CBSNews.com reported that John Ashcroft had stopped flying on commercial airlines. He used to fly commercial, just as Janet Reno did. So why, 2 months before September 11, 2 months, just 8 weeks, did he suddenly start taking chartered government planes? CBS News correspondent Jim Stewart asked the Justice Department. Because of a threat assessment by the FBI, he was told, but neither the FBI nor the Justice Department would identify what the threat was. All of a sudden, homie on a private plane, when he used to fly commercial all the time. But 2 months before 9/11, he said, nah, let me get that private plane ticket. Here's another thing to consider. Just actual facts, y'all. Just actual facts. The Pentagon. How come the hole in the Pentagon was 18 feet across, but the wingspan of a 757 is 146 feet? You see the hole right there? That looked like I dug that hole. Come on, man. John Henry could dig that hole. Dig a bigger hole than that. But that was the hole of a 757 fighter jet. I mean, a 757 airliner. Now I'm going to show you this. Anybody know what this is in the comment section? Hit me up. What are you looking at right here? Anybody know what this is? Got to be somebody that pays attention to the news over the years. If you just started paying attention to the news, you're not going to know what this is. All praises due to Allah to everybody chiming in. Sister Yasiel says this is good to go back and revisit, especially with all this info. Brother Landon coming with it. All praises due to Allah indeed. Said they're using the forgotten technology, stealing, telling lies. Absolutely. And mastery of the original man. Absolutely. Anybody know what you're looking at right now, though? Well, here's a little bit of a hint. That ain't 9/11. That is an IRS, Internal Revenue Service building in the state of Texas. About 8 years ago, if I'm not mistaken on the timeline, but I do know that this is an IRS building. Some of you may remember a white man who was mad that he was just having a bad year. His wife left him. His company was being shut down. His assets were being seized because of money that he owed the IRS. So he decided to fly a plane into this IRS building in Texas. What kind of plane did he fly to make that huge impact? That impact is bigger than the impact in the Pentagon. Now, this is the Pentagon impact. This is homeboy in the IRS building. It looked like the picture on the right was a machine about this size, but it wasn't. Not even close. The actual plane that was used, I gotta show y'all a picture of the actual plane that was used. This is the actual make and model. Pull it up real quick. Shout out to everybody chiming in. We see you. This is the actual make and model of the plane that did that damage. That plane that you're looking at is called a single engine Piper PA 28. Little bitty plane. That's the kind of damage that a plane that small. I mean, it's SUVs bigger than that plane. But look at the damage it caused. But we're supposed to believe that this was a 757, one of the biggest airliners that exist today. Jetliners, excuse me. Okay. Now here's another one. Like I said, it only gets worse from here. The logic just starts dripping like an ice cube in hell. Look. This flight trainer from San Diego, he got a similar plane in the background. He flunked the two of the alleged 9/11 hijackers. He flunked them. These were pilots who flew one of the planes into the World Trade, but they went to San Diego to take flight lessons. But read the small print. His name was Rick Garza. He's a flight instructor for two of the suspected terrorists who went on to perpetrate horrible acts on 9/11 in the plane that crashed into the Pentagon. But when they were his students, he asked them to leave the flying club. Listen, he didn't just flunk them. He told them, y'all ain't got to go home, but y'all got to get the hell up out of here. He said he told them to leave the flying club because of their lack of aptitude for flying. He still teaches students and every few weeks flies an air ambulance out of Blythe. This man was teaching these supposed hijackers, according to that FBI list. And they were so terrible. Now, mind you, they had to pay him. I know a brother that does, shout out to brother Chris. He does CPR classes. You pay him and then he shows you the ins and outs, the technical ins and outs of CPR and respiratory safety. You can go in there and mess it all up. You still got to pay him and he ain't going to kick you out unless you're causing a disruption. These dudes were so terrible at flying that he said, man, y'all got to go. Y'all don't know nothing. Y'all can't even, y'all, listen, y'all got to go. However, do you know the difficulty? And excuse me, I said New York City. It was they actually flew the one technically or allegedly that flew that made that little hole, that little rat hole on the side of the Pentagon. May Allah be pleased with every innocent person that died on 9/11. Let me be very clear about this. So I'm not accused of making light of death. I said it several times already. It was an absolute tragedy. I was watching a news story where his sister died in the Pentagon tragedy. But we got to call a spade and a fact a fact. But this man said that they were so terrible at flying planes that he kicked them out the class. But let's look at the kind of skill that they would have needed to pull off that Pentagon attack. You notice that firefighter that you see standing right there, he's not floating in the air. So obviously the plane dip down to ground level and hit the bottom portion of that side of the Pentagon. And for them to do that, and based on what they claim was on the radar, here's what they would have had to do. First of all, it would have been it would have taken expert flying skills. But let's be specific. They had to do a 270-degree turn from the manifest that flight was supposed to follow, because they knew the flight, they knew the plane, so they knew where the plane was supposed to go. So they would have had to do a 270-degree turn in midair, going at 500 miles per hour. They would have had to descend on a dime 7,000 feet down and then hit a direct hit into the Pentagon. You have to be Top Gun, Tom Cruise Top Gun, in order to pull that off, especially with a jetliner, a 757, which the street equivalent is like an RV or an 18-wheeler truck. It's like winning a NASCAR race in an 18-wheeler. That's what kind of skill it would have took to do that. Let's keep going. Why were the 9/11 Pentagon tapes seized by the FBI immediately? Now, this is where it really gets interesting. Because, of course, that would have been the first. It was so much footage of the planes hitting the towers in New York. Where is the footage? Especially the Pentagon. Do you realize what the Pentagon is? The Pentagon is the military headquarters of the most powerful, most dangerous, and most hated military in the world, the United States military. That's their headquarters. If you step foot on the grounds of the headquarters of the Nation of Islam in Chicago on Stony Island, I guarantee you a camera will catch your raggedy behind, and then some brothers will, and maybe a sister or two. But you mean to tell me that something went down outside the Pentagon, the headquarters of the most powerful and most hated military in the world, and nobody caught a glimpse? But check this out. Here's what's funny about this. AP, the Associated Press, they tried to debunk the conspiracy so-called theories of this by saying, wait a minute, the actual footage was released later, a couple of years later. But check out what they said though. This is the AP. They're trying to prove they're actually trying to say that the conspiracy is wrong and it's false. But check out what they say and what they don't say. AP News says Pentagon security cameras outside the building captured the plane crashing into the building. See how they said that with so much confidence? They captured the plane. But listen to them describe this plane. The plane is barely visible as it hits the building and an explosion erupts. The security camera footage was made public after a conservative group, Judicial Watch, filed a Freedom of Information request seeking it in December 2004. Remember, they said it's barely visible, but look at what else they say. The Associated Press reported on the footage released in 2006, saying that the plane can be seen as a thin white blur before it plows into the Pentagon at ground level. At the time, Tom Fitton, the Judicial Watch, told the AP that he hoped the video would end conspiracy theories. Psych, it's not going to end it, because you said the only thing you noticed, you're trying to swear up and down that it was a plane, but your description of said plane is a thin white blur. Listen to me, y'all. I'm not the smartest man in the world. Don't let the size of my head or these eyeglasses fool you. I'm not as smart as I might look. But no matter how big something is or how fast it's going, if you're going so fast that you leave a blur, if you 400 pounds and 6'8", that blur is not going to be thin. If it's a 757, the blur won't be thin. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you ain't got to be a rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's just mathematics. This ain't no Looney Tunes cartoon. This ain't Flintstones where they pat their feet and pew. It don't work like that. If you're moving that fast, it's gonna be a blur. I get it. Look at still pictures of traffic. You can look at them on Google right now. Just Google, traffic pictures, and you'll see the blur of the cars and the headlights going up and down the street. But the blur is always the same approximate size of the car itself. You don't see a thin blur for an RV. So how you gonna get a thin blur for a 757 aircraft? Come on, man. Sounds like a missile projectile to me. I mean, just common sense. And these were some AP was trying to debunk the conspiracy, and they ended up snitching on themselves. Let's keep it moving. Shout out to everybody chiming in. We see you. Sister Yasiel Joy says this is crazy. That is crazy. The skills alone needed to crash a plane. Absolutely. Because you got to understand, it was all direct hits. You saw the crashes in New York, and then the one in the Pentagon. It was direct hits. And the thing about it is, especially with the Pentagon, you can't meander around. You couldn't circle around like a buzzard and then, line it up perfectly. They would have shot you down. They would have used those two fighter jets that were available to shoot you down. They would have pulled up right next to you. Y'all seen the movies before. They pull up right next to the airplane. Some of them are big enough to actually carry the airplane off course and deal with it in a rural area. They can do that too. They got technology where they can hook onto the fuel tank of the plane, siphon out the fuel, and let that thing drop. So when they did it, if it was an aircraft at all, they would have had to do it with so much precision, and they had to do it quickly. And they had to be two pilots a little bit better than a couple of idiots that got ran out of flying class, that couldn't even fly a single engine airplane, but somehow they did something in a 757 that many tried and true military fighters can't even do. Let's keep it moving. And then there's Flight 93. All praises due to Allah. Shout out to Brother Clayton Muhammad. We see you, brother. Wa alaikum salam. Then it's Flight 93. Like T.I. said, after he had that fight with, with Floyd Mayweather. Where it at, though? Where they at, though? They said T.I. had a black eye. Where they at, though? They said Flight 93 crashed. Where's it at? You mean to tell me that it was going so fast that it didn't leave not one debris, just a smoking hole in the ground? What crashed there that only left a smoke? You talking about a 757 with over 100 people on it, and this is all that's left? There's never been a crash on land that looks like this. Now, here's another thing. Many of you have watched documentaries or read information about 9/11, and one of the heartwarming and heart-tugging stories, many of them have been situations where people were on those flights that got hijacked, and they knew that they were going to die, so they made cell phone calls in order to speak to their family one last time. These were cell phone calls, but this was 2001. Cell phone technology was very young. This was even before the touch screen. This is when, if you had a flip phone, if you had a Nextel, then you was that dude. You was the one. You was the man with a black and white, green and white Nextel that was about that thick. You was the dude. So cellular technology was not only far behind back then, but cellular technology on airplanes was a lot different. For example, they always tell you to turn your cell phones off, right? Because it might interfere with, the radar of the plane or whatever they say. But here's the truth of the matter. Even if they, and one of these days they might do this, even, especially back then in 2001, even if they let you leave your cell phone, and a lot of times y'all don't turn it off. I don't always turn mine off. Even if they let you do it, back then you probably couldn't make a phone call because cell phone towers are on the ground. This is why, especially in a city like LA, when you go up in the hills, you think, well, damn, I'm closer to the satellite since I'm on the hill. Why is my cell phone not working? Because all of the cell phone towers are on the ground. They can't be on the top of a hill. They got to be on a level ground. So when you're in the sky, that airplane has to have certain technology in order to connect your cell phone signal to the towers on the ground. And if it does not have that technology, then you can make all the calls you want. You ain't talking to nobody if you thousands of feet in the air. And that technology that I'm speaking of exists, but it did not exist in 2001. It was not invented until 2004. So my point is this. The technology, the modern technology used to ground cell phone calls on flights was invented in 2004. Prior to this in-flight cell phone, calls were nearly impossible. But somehow, 10 calls made by passengers and crew members were recorded and broadcasted all over the news on 9/11, 2001. I don't want you to just take my word for it. I got receipts. This is an unrelated CNN article that didn't even have nothing to do with 9/11. They were just talking about the technology. How high in the air can a cell phone work? Check this out. It says, despite the urgings of flight crews to turn off all phones or put them in airplane mode, cell phones can continue to work after a plane takes off, but only while in range of a cellular tower. Cell phones communicate through cell towers, which are located on the ground, but can stretch only hundreds of feet into the air. As an airplane rises, it gets further from these towers and eventually contact range. For efficiency, many towers are designed to direct their signal where it's most useful, which is on the ground, not into the sky above. So not only are all the cell phone towers on the ground, but they are designed to this day to serve those who are on level ground, not those way up in the hills and not people on airplanes, but just the attempt of trying to use a phone on an airplane can cause disruption to radar. But you're not getting a phone, you're not getting a clear cell phone call out. But there's about 10 calls that have been broadcasted over the news of some lady or some person trying to call. And they make it as if those calls went through and they were just left on the answering machine. That was before voicemails were fully functional. Yeah, 2001 don't seem that long ago, but technology wise, it was. Let's keep it moving. Check this out, family. 6 months before 9/11, the World Trade Center was purchased by a group called the Silverstein Group. The Silverstein Group, led by this nice old man. Look at him. Don't he seem so nice? Oh, look at him. He just look. Oh, he got his chopper suit on. He matching. He got the purple tie. Oh, nice little Jewish man. Larry Silverstein. Harmless. Look like he wouldn't harm a fly. Multi-billionaire real estate magnate out of New York. Larry Silverstein then immediately after buying the World Trade Center took out an insurance policy on the building that covered acts of terrorism. Now, the purchase price for Larry Silverstein, this nice old man right here, I want you to pay attention to how nice he looks. I love that suit, by the way. It's a really nice suit. The purchase price at the time was $3.2 billion. He paid it in full, no financing. But here's the thing: he probably overpaid for the building by about $1 billion, and here's why. The Twin Towers, as magnificent as they looked, were in almost disrepair. They were in very poor shape as far as the overall condition of the building. Just like you go into a project building in the hood, and the paint is chipped. I saw some on social media where the landlord painted over a dead roach. The heater don't work, the AC don't work. That's how the towers were. They were not in good shape. But most of all, when the towers were built in, I believe, the late 60s or early 70s, it was filled with something that is now illegal to put in a building. You've heard it before. It's called asbestos. Asbestos. And a law was passed not too long ago that forced all building, it gave every building, no matter how big or small, a certain amount of time to repair the asbestos if it was built with asbestos. So you would go to the local authorities. They would tell you, okay, your building has asbestos. You have this many years to rid it. Of course, if it's a bigger building, they give you more time. If it's a smaller building, they give you less time. The Twin Towers was filled with asbestos from the top, from the penthouse all the way down to the garage. And to repair that asbestos, they would have had to condemn the World Trade Center for a couple of months, go tear into the infrastructure, and it would cost roughly, y'all ready for this, about $3 billion just for that repair. He paid $3 billion for it. So the repair, imagine spending 9 G's on a car, and you thinking, man, I done came up, I got me a car for 9 G's, and then it break down the next day, and they say, oh yeah, the repair is gonna cost 9,500. But Big Larry wasn't tripping. Big Larry was good. You see this? You see that little smile on his face? He happy because he knew what he was buying. Even though this building was really only worth about 1 billion, he spent 3.2 billion on it, and then immediately took out an insurance that specifically related to covering acts of terrorism. Good old Larry Silverstein, after 9/11, cashed in for $4.6 billion on the insurance claim. So he was up over $1 billion. That was $1 billion flip, Brother Rome. Mr. Real Estate, how you love that? How you love that? Don't you, brother Rome, brother Ikechiku, don't you wish you could get a $1 billion flip, bro? You'll do it someday. Just get on my man's level. Get like Larry, Big Larry right here. Big Larry Silverstein. Finesse the game for $1 billion. Over $1 billion in profit in less than 2 years. In less than no. In less than 7 months, he made that flip. That's a nice little chunk of change for 7 months. But here's something that's really interesting about this, and this is why I kept kind of playing around about how nice and innocent he looks. There's a story that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan tells all the time, where he said that one day he was riding with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They were side by side in the car. The messenger was driving, and they stopped at a light. And when they stopped at this intersection, a little feeble old man start, inching across the street. You know how them old white men move, chop stepping, hunchback. He looked so feeble. And the minister kind of felt sorry for this old, decrepit man. And the minister said something to that effect, like, oh, poor guy, look at him trying to get across the street and can't hardly get to the other side. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, brother, Have you ever met someone or seen someone that has absolutely no good in them? And he said, "No, sir, dear apostle." And then the messenger pointed at that little feeble old man that couldn't hardly cross the street. And he said, "You looking at him right now." And that's where he said those famous words: "You can't fathom the depths of Satan." So with that said, let's look at Big Larry again. I know he looks so innocent, but for a $1.4 billion come up, he was willing to murder 37,000 people in the United States military, over 3,000 people in the building in the attacks alone, and almost 200,000 innocent Middle Eastern brothers and sisters. You cannot fathom the depths of Satan. And that's what the minister said. He said, then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to me, "Brother, you can't fathom the death of Satan." He didn't use the word devil. You can't fathom the death of Satan. And he never said another word in that car ride. Here's something else. George W. Bush's brother was on the board of directors of a company providing electronic security for the World Trade Center, Dulles International Airport, and United Airlines, according to public records. The company was backed by an investment American corporation, also linked for years to the Bush family. This is Marvin Bush, George W. Bush's little brother, who was on the board of directors of the security firm that particularly handled electronics in the World Trade Center. So he knew all of the ins and outs of the electrical aspect of security. But check this out. One security associate reported the abrupt removal of explosive sniffing dogs prior to 9/11, 5 days prior to 9/11 to be exact. Now, here's a fact. Here's another fact. Facts on facts on facts. No steel framed building before or after 9/11 has ever collapsed due to fire. These are just facts, people. And when you really start digging into the depths of this incident, when I was just talking about Big Larry, man, I almost got kind of choked up. And when I was doing the research on this, I literally shed a couple of tears on a particular part that I'm going to show you in a minute. But no steel frame building before or after 9/11 has ever collapsed due to fire. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Check this out. The World Trade Center towers were specifically built to withstand airliner impact due to them being, at the time, two of the tallest buildings in the world. That's just common sense. You building a building that's reaching into the clouds, you better be ready for airplane impact. You think they didn't consider that when they built a damn tower, two towers that damn big? For a moment, it was the tallest structure in the world. And even on the day of 9/11, 2001, it was top 5. Now, many of you have heard this fact. The melting point of steel, 2,500 to 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. 2,500 to 2,800. This is the melting point of steel. The temperature of jet fuel fires do not exceed 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is where I got choked up when I was preparing this and putting this together. If the jet fuel heat was somehow so excessive that it was able to reach the level of 29, 3,000, 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, you would not have seen people in the windows so close to the impact. I remember this day. I'm old enough to remember that day. I woke up out of my sleep. My roommate knocked on my door and said, "Landon, look at your TV." And I used to go to sleep with the news on. That's something I got from my grandmother and my mama. When they went to sleep, they always had the news on. So it was a habit that I got. So I woke up out of a 13-inch TV. And I woke up and I just looked at the screen. It took a while for it to process. But one of the things they showed, and I woke up right before the second tower was hit, which was ironically right around 9/11. The first tower was hit around 9/11 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. Remember those two numbers, 9 and 11. And I remember them showing, they did it, they didn't even do it on purpose. They didn't even show these shots on purpose. Remember, it was live TV, so they zoomed in and usually they don't want to show this kind of stuff on TV, but they showed these people hanging out of the windows. They were close to the impact. You can tell by the smoke clouds because the smoke doesn't go down, it rises. So they're right on the same level of the impact. If it was 4,000 degrees of heat in that damn building, there's no way they can just be standing there looking. Now, of course, they were choking. Of course, they were hot. But 4,000 degrees is something that you cannot, first of all, you can't physically exist in 4,000 degrees of fire, first of all. They would have been disintegrated. But then there's a very iconic, memorable picture that was also going around the internet and publications that I had heard of. I had seen a few glimpses of it, but I never looked directly at it because it's such a terrible thing to see. And that was the picture of the falling man. You might have heard about it. And I'm going to show it right now. Because for the first time in 20 years, I took a good look at the picture. And from this angle, that looked like a brother. Now, my condolences go to every victim of 9/11 because they were innocent, all of them, except for the bastards that flew the planes. But they were innocent. I don't care what their race was, their religion. They were innocent, man. And then I just imagine these brothers and sisters, white folks, whatever the hell they were, that high up in the sky. Imagine what they looking down at now. They looking down at the street. In the street, the people in the cars on the street look like ants. That's how far up they were. And they have to choose between the scorching heat, even if it was just 900 degrees, the scorching heat behind them that they couldn't even breathe, or the 1,000+ foot drop the other way. You cannot fathom the depths of Satan. Listen, everybody that's watching this, NationTown TV viewers, man, listen. Don't let these conspiracies, don't get so caught up in the conspiracies that you start to belittle the loss of life. Yeah, it was a false flag. Yeah, it was some bullshit. Yes, but people, real people die. And that's the tragedy of it. If you're going to get mad at that. Don't just get mad over, oh, the government tried to get over on us. Yeah, they've been doing that. But when the loss of life, man, it pisses me off, man. But I never looked at this picture close. I saw it in Time magazine back in the day. And I just kind of glanced at it and kept it moving. But I looked at it and I zoomed in on it today. I said, man, that looked like a brother. Not that it matters. Not that it matters more. But trust me, every type of person that exists in America was represented in the death toll of 9/11, especially when you include the military personnel. And lastly, I got to point this out. There is no scientific explanation that matches the official crash cause of the tower collapsed. For the ball drop speed in which the towers collapsed. The collapse of those towers was like somebody dropped the ball from the penthouse and went straight to the ground with no wind resistance. The official speed that was measured of the collapse of these two towers, tower number 2 collapsed in 9 seconds. You can't make this up, people. Tower number 1 collapsed in 11 seconds. And remember, the first plane hit at approximately 9:11 a.m. And of course, it all took place on 9/11. These are not coincidences, people. Now, I want to point this out before we get up out of here. We're about to get up out of here. I didn't mean to go this long. The reason I'm going over all this ain't about just dredging up 9/11 conspiracies. The reason I'm going over all of this is because I remember what happened after 9/11. George W. Bush, when he was selected as president, America was so pissed off. You thought they was pissed off over Bush. I would argue that they were more pissed off about Bush because of the arguments and the controversy about what happened in Florida with the hanging chads. If you're not old enough to remember it back then, or you weren't paying attention, you was kicking it, you was getting high, whatever, just Google it. Hanging chads, Florida. Chads, CHAD. Because back then they didn't have the digital screens. You stuck a ticket, looked like a lottery ticket, in the machine, and it counted it. And there was a lot of funny stuff that went down in that election. But because America was so pissed off, during his inauguration, they were throwing tomatoes and eggs at his motorcade. They weren't cheering like they did all the other presidents before him. They was throwing eggs and stuff at his motorcade. On 9/10/2001, George W. Bush had an approval rating of barely 40%. It was in the late 30s, 38, 39%. 38 to 30. When you got an approval rating of 38 to 39% as president, that means a lot of white people don't like your ass. Excuse my English. That means people in your own party don't even like you. If you're around the 45% range, that means you got your party sold up, but just the people in the other party don't like you. That's where Trump was by the time he left office. He was in that 40 to 45 range. When you drop under 40, that means people in your own party want to steal on you. But by 9/12/2001, George W. Bush had an 80+% approval rating. And only one congressperson voted against military operations in Afghanistan, and that was a sister. Both sides of the aisle, both parties got behind it. Everybody had a flag waving in their front yard. Even Negroes went and bought a flag from Family Dollar and stuck it in front of their apartment, in front of their little raggedy house. I'm just keeping it real, man. We was all playing Patriot after 9/11. And it reminds me of what's going on right now. We have this tragedy called COVID-19. And slowly but surely, even though black people are the least, we the slowest demographic to get this jab. I'm starting to hear black folks getting weak. I'm seeing some knees quaking because of this event, which we're told is a pestilence from heaven. But the way this devil is maneuvering it, because that's my personal opinion of 9/11. My personal opinion of 9/11 is not that America orchestrated it. This is just my personal opinion. My opinion is that they knew that a group was going to do it, but they saw the political and financial gains that could come from it, so they let it happen. They even opened the door, kind of like a bullfighter when he hold out the thing and the bull come and he just let him run through. That's what I feel happened. They cleared the way. They probably even gave Al Qaeda the information and said, hey, we ain't gonna have but 2 jet fighters out there. But even if it was a straight up false flag or not, don't let the emotions and the tragedy of it allow the government to trick you into some foolishness, man. Look at their track record. This was a background check. This is just like, you trying to get a car and then they pull up that Rent-A-Center stereo that you only paid 2 payments on back in 1997 and you ain't gave them that stereo back yet. And they pull that up when you was trying to get a car. See, that's what we doing. We just pulling up one of the worst examples of this government's works. Right up there with the Tuskegee attack. That's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan looking at an exhibit that's remarking the Tuskegee attack. Our current president is the author of the most destructive congressional bill since slavery itself, the crime bill. Joe Biden. It wasn't Bill Clinton's bill, it was Joe Biden's bill. He told Bill Clinton, you got to do this. The Republicans think you soft. You got to do this. If you really want bipartisan support, you got to do this. And it led to more incarcerations and more fatherless black households and more poverty than anything else that preceded it, other than slavery itself. So, family, I appreciate y'all sticking it out with me. But I had to go over this, but I can't stress it enough. To pray for the families of everybody that lost somebody, because the fact that it was a false flag and the fact that there's so much shadiness involved, but thousands of people died in the process, that's the real tragedy. And if you're going to be a conspiracy theorist, be a conspiracy theorist and back it up with action. Back it up with action. The action that I'm backing it up with is I'm not going to trust anything this government put in front of me. It don't matter if I know that this is a conspiracy theory or that's a conspiracy theory, but every time they offer a shot or a vaccine, I'm taking it. Every little crumb they throw at me, I'm eating it. Back it up with action, man. Listen, I appreciate y'all. No, ma'am. No, sir. They say Shagans was that sister Cynthia McKinney. Actually, it wasn't. I think it was, I want to say Barbara Boxer. She's a sister out of, it wasn't Barbara Boxer. She's Caucasian. But it was a sister, I want to say Lee. Somebody can look that up. But it was a sister out of California that voted against it. And she was the only one that stood before Congress and actually filibustered and gave her opinion. And she basically was saying that we can't go down to their level, even if it was Afghanistan or if it was Taliban that did it. We can't bring peace this way. She was the only one, and now everybody's looking at her like, wow, she was a prophet, because look how Afghanistan turned out. Afghanistan was Vietnam 2.0. America lost Afghanistan. Facts. That's facts. In fact, the loss in Afghanistan is clearer than the loss in Vietnam. You could argue the Vietnam War, because now America can kind of play the game and say, well, we wasn't really trying to win it. We was just trying to keep communism from getting it. No. But Afghanistan, it is a clear-cut L. 100% L. Barbara Lee. Thank you, Brother Daryl Jackson. It was Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee. That sister stood her ground, and she's still standing that ground to this day. Beautiful sister too. Shout out to Barbara Lee. But yeah, I appreciate y'all sticking it out for me. Almost 2 hours. I didn't think it would take this long, but I had to get through the facts. I'm gonna leave y'all as I greeted y'all in the words of peace. We said in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum.